Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Today we're going to do a special double elite review of Stephanie McMahon, Series 37 and Series 50. Now, I bought both of these boxed, but for some reason my Series 37's missing the two accessories. Seriously? Come here, Alexa, you realize you don't need to be sucking up right now? These figures aren't real like you. Now give me those signs back. Alright, come here, Alexa. I have to keep these. These are integral parts of the set here. Okay, that sign's kind of cool. Oh, that one's even better. Wait. Hey, wait a secend. Yeah, real funny. Anyway, let's take a closer look at these figures. So let's start off with Elite Series 37 Stephanie McMahon. Now, as you can see, this looks great in the box, but to appreciate this figure fully, you need to get her out. So that being said, the first thing we're going to review are the two accessories she comes with, which are these two signs. That Comer Alexa modified like the real Jabronsky she can be sometimes. Now, as you can see, they're double-sided. They both say the same thing. Now, in my opinion, there's only two ways that these can be useful. A, if you have a fig fed, and B, if your name is Steph. Other than that, these are kind of worthless accessories. You can't even display her with them because it makes a figure look super narcissistic or something. So yeah, these aren't the best accessories. Now moving on to the figure as a whole, it really doesn't have that good of a likeness to Stephanie McMahon. They put a lot of detail in that attire that we'll cover in close, but I'll show you exactly where this figure fails, starting with the face. So this face looks nothing like Stephanie McMahon. It looks far too generic. Now, a general rule that I go by is I picture their face scans on different wrestler-type bodies to see if it still resembles that superstar. That being said, if you put this head on any other female wrestler body, you would have no idea who this was. I mean, this would probably be good for customs because it's such a generic-looking face, you could probably make it into anybody. But yeah, they really missed the mark on this scan, and it does not look good. Now, where this figure shines is in the attire department. This is from SummerSlam 2014, where she defeated Brie Bella in a singles match, and the attire is spot on. They did make this figure an odd body shape, but it isn't too noticeable due to the detail in the attire. Now, that's what makes this figure pop, is all the special detail that they put into this attire. Now, if you look closely at her top, she has like a molded corset type top, with little molded buckles, molded laces, I mean the whole works. This is Mold City. Even going to her back, she has this zipper pattern molded on with little studs here. And she also has this little off black type color to simulate almost a semi see-through lace. And that's on her chest and also her sides and then down her thighs. Now moving on to her lower half, once again we continue that Mold City, and she's got molded lace patterns on her thighs, little molded studs painted silver, and she even has little bell-bottom type bottoms, which are very accurate to that night. Her shoes are nothing special, but the rest of it's pretty stunning. I mean, if you look at the detail they put into this, you could tell that she's the boss's daughter and they wanted to take extra care and special attention to her figure, because the attire really pops. Alright, so this figure's attire is quite stunning, but they really missed the mark with the face, and the overall body shape is just weird. Now, if they had that face scan accurate, this would be a really highly rated figure, but we'll get to both scores at the same time at the end, because Elite Series 50 is going to surprise a lot of you. Now that being said, let's move on to Elite Series 50 in the main event. So here it is, Elite Series 50, Stephanie McMahon. Now this is another figure that is really enjoyable, and you really can't fully appreciate these details on it unless you open it up. So I would highly recommend to display this one loose, especially because of the awesome accessory she comes with, which is her entrance attire. So let's get her out. So her attire is based from the main event of WrestleMania 32, where she accompanied her husband Triple H to the ring, where he had a losing effort to Roman Reigns for the WWE Heavyweight Championship. Now once again, the detail in her attire is truly amazing. So let's get a closer look at all the different aspects that make this figure unbelievable. Starting with the face. Now that's what I'm talking about. That looks a lot more like Stephanie McMahon. And let's be honest, she's had a lot of figures back in the Jax days and a couple Mattels, and they always miss the mark. But I feel like this face scan is near perfect. I mean, not only does it resemble her, but she has this smug scowl which really displays her heel persona perfectly. I also love the signature hairstyle they gave her from that night. And also, even her hairband, if you look, has little molded silver spikes on it. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this face scan. Now let's move on to the attire. Now her top is once again flooded with tons of molding and detail. Even these intricate studs are molded on her collar and painted silver. They're also on her shoulders. Now something that you really can't tell unless you get up close is she has this molded zigzag pattern all throughout her top and her bottoms. That's amazing. I mean, if you look close, not only did they include the zipper molding, they included a little tiny zipper. That's unbelievable. Now turning her around, she just has that pattern continued on the back, but it looks pretty awesome. Now let's move on to the lower extremity. Moving on to her bottoms, as I mentioned before, she has that zigzag molding all the way down to the lower half. She also has those raised little silver studs that go along the side of her leg, down to her butt a little bit. And then moving on to her legs, she has these thigh-high boots that are once again all molded with extreme detail. And even down to her feet, she has this little piece of silver detail there. Now it looks great. So let's talk about another great feature of this figure, and that's all the awesome accessories she comes with. I mean, my experience with Maurice that had the same type high-heeled boot mold, it was extremely hard to get her to stand up. So the fact that Stephanie comes with a display stand is truly awesome. Now it is important to note it comes with this back piece and also this little part of the performance center weight room there to make a diorama. If you collect the other figures in the series, you can make the whole thing. But I'm not going to use that, so just having that display stand alone is awesome. So something else she comes with is this really detailed entrance jacket. Now once again, this thing is molded to the extreme. It has this little silver collar, silver buttons, silver shoulders, all studded. And on the back, she even has Triple H's logo. That's awesome. Now we're going to put that on her in a sec, but first I want to show you the last accessory. And it's this little Skull King mask. Now this thing's cool. Now she held it a lot in her promo shots, and what's awesome is it even included a little handle so she can hold onto it perfectly. Now this is great. Now, that being said, let's put this jacket on her and see how she looks. Side note, I'm really glad I didn't film myself putting this coat on because it was very difficult. That being said, it's a very stretchy rubber, but I actually like that it was difficult to put on because that means that it fits really snug on her and it looks good. It doesn't look too baggy. It looks awesome. So as you can see, this figure's legit and definitely an underrated elite, if not the most underrated elite of the women's figures. Now I get that Stephanie McMahon isn't as marketable compared to some of the women's wrestlers who compete primarily, but she has a big part in the women's evolution, and in my opinion, this figure has a spot in the women's evolution of how their figures have developed over the years. I mean, this thing is simply spectacular, and like I mentioned before, it's really hard to appreciate the true beauty of this and the detail and effort that went into this, unless you're holding it in your hands and you can see all those details up close. Now, I can't wait to give this a score. But first, let me tell you all about the availability of both these elites. As far as availability goes, you can find both Elite Series 37 and Elite Series 50 Stephanie McMahon on Amazon Prime for less than $20. And honestly, I've seen both go on eBay brand new in box for around that $15 mark. So for Series 37, that's about right. But for Series 50, that is an absolute steal. And I would go out and try to get it ASAP. Overall, I give Elite Series 37 Stephanie McMahon a score of a 6 out of 10. It's nothing special. They do a great job on the attire, but the face doesn't look like her at all. Now that being said, I give Elite Series 50 Stephanie McMahon a score of a 10 out of 10, a perfect score. Now hear me out on this. That might not be a popular opinion, but you really don't know how good this figure is until you look at it up close. I mean, I wasn't even in a rush to get this figure, honestly, and I collect only the women's division. But once I opened it up and looked closely, I realized what I was missing. The face scan is perfect, the hair is awesome, the attire is great, and super detailed. And her accessories of this jacket, the mask, and the display stand, you can't beat that. I mean, this to me is the most underrated Elite women's figure, maybe even one of the most underrated figures out there in wrestling, period. This is an awesome figure. and an absolute must-have if you're a women's division collector. If you don't believe me, go have a look for yourself, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Make sure to hit like and subscribe and join the community. I have a lot of special reviews coming up, including a top 10 countdown of all of Sasha Banks' Mattel releases. I also have a page review, AJ Lee, and I have many future pre-orders that should be in here in the next couple weeks. Stay tuned, y'all.